In the hushed fluorescence of the Harvard biology lab at 3 a.m., 22-year-old Sofia Reyes stared at the email that would rewrite her future. The subject line was innocuous: "Congratulations on your Nature submission," but the body was a blade. Her groundbreaking research on CRISPR-based gene editing for rare pediatric cancers had been accepted under the sole authorship of her mentor, Dr. Elias Whitaker. Her name was nowhere, not even in the acknowledgments. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat as she scrolled to the supplementary files and saw her own raw data, her sequencing runs, her late-night notebooks, everything stamped with Whitaker's digital signature. Outside the lab window, the Charles River lay black and still, reflecting the lights of Cambridge like scattered lies. Sofia closed the laptop, her hands steady despite the rage blooming in her chest. This was an oversight. This was theft. And she was going to make sure the world knew exactly who the real thief was. Sofia had arrived at Harvard 2 years earlier on a full-ride scholarship, the first in her family to attend an Ivy League school. Raised by a single mother who cleaned offices in Miami's Brickell district, Sofia had grown up translating medical forms for neighbors and dreaming in nucleotides. She published her first paper as an undergrad at UMiami, a modest but elegant study on epigenetic markers in leukemia. Whitaker, tall, silver-haired, perpetually quoted in the New York Times as the conscience of modern genomics, had personally recruited her. "You have the kind of mind that changes paradigms," he'd told her over coffee in his corner office overlooking the yard. "Let me help you build something immortal." For 20 months, she did exactly that. She worked 80-hour weeks, optimized protocols, chased down anomalies in the data until her eyes burned. Whitaker was charming in public, exacting in private. He'd rewrite her grant proposals in red ink, dismiss her ideas in lab meetings with a paternal chuckle, then later claim them as his own in faculty seminars. Sofia told herself it was the price of mentorship. Every great scientist had endured a difficult advisor. She kept a private lab notebook locked in her apartment, time-stamped and photographed weekly, just a habit, she thought, not paranoia. The betrayal unfolded slowly, then all at once. Whitaker began excluding her from key meetings with the pharma partners who were funding the pediatric trial. He stopped forwarding emails from the Nature editor. When she asked about co-authorship on the big paper, he smiled thinly. "We'll discuss positioning after acceptance. First authorships are political, Sofia. You're still early career." She nodded, swallowed the unease. Then came the night she stayed late to finish a Western blot and overheard him on the phone in his office. "Yes, the data package is clean. No, the graduate student won't be a problem. She's grateful for the opportunity." The Nature acceptance was the final cut. Sofia printed the email, walked to the 24-hour Dunkin' on Mass Avenue, and sat in a booth until dawn, mapping her counterattack on napkins. She couldn't just complain. Whitaker sat on every major prize committee, chaired the department's misconduct panel, and had mentored half the tenured faculty in the building. A direct accusation would be career suicide. She needed evidence that was ironclad, public, and devastating. Phase 1. Documentation. Sofia quietly exported every version of the shared Dropbox folder, every Slack message, every Google Doc revision history. She found dozens of instances where Whitaker had deleted her contributions and inserted his own. She photographed her physical notebooks, uploaded encrypted backups to 3 separate cloud services, and mailed a thumb drive to her mother in Miami with instructions only to open it if Sofia disappeared from contact for more than a week. Phase 2. Allies. She reached out to former Whitaker lab members, postdocs who had left academia bitter and silent. One, Dr. Priya Malhotra, now at Stanford, responded within hours. "He did the same to me in 2018. I have emails." Another, a Brazilian researcher named Lucas who'd returned to Sao Paulo, sent scanned pages of his own stolen figures. A pattern emerged. Whitaker had built his empire on the unpaid, uncredited labor of first-generation and international students who feared retaliation. Phase 3. Amplification. Sofia created an anonymous Substack titled The Whitaker Files. The first post was clinical, a side-by-side comparison of her notebook entries and the published Nature figures, with timestamps and metadata intact. She seeded the link on academic Twitter, now X, in private Slack groups, and on postdoc Reddit. Within 48 hours it had 40,000 views. Comments poured in: horror, recognition, stories from other labs. Whitaker's name began trending alongside words like predator and misconduct. Whitaker fought back hard. He issued a statement through Harvard's PR office calling the allegations baseless and defamatory, claiming the blog was the work of a disgruntled student with mental health challenges. He circulated an email to the faculty listserv implying Sophia had fabricated data herself. The department chair called her in for a welfare check. She recorded it secretly on her phone. But Sophia had anticipated the smear. She'd already submitted a formal retraction request to Nature with her full documentation. The journal's integrity team, embarrassed by the public scrutiny, launched an investigation. Retraction Watch covered it daily. Major donors to the Whitaker Center for Genomic Ethics began asking uncomfortable questions. A New York Times science reporter who'd profiled Whitaker 2 years earlier requested an interview for balance. The breaking point came at the annual American Society for Gene and Cell Therapy conference in Boston. Whitaker was scheduled to give the keynote. Sophia bought a ticket with her last credit card and sat in the third row. Midway through his talk, slides proudly displaying her data, he was interrupted by a projector hijack. The screen cut to a meticulously edited video, timestamps of her notebook scans dissolving into the published figures, voiceover reading Whitaker's own emails admitting he'd removed her name to strengthen the narrative for funding. The hall went silent. Phones rose like periscopes. By the time security escorted the technical glitch offender out, a sympathetic AV tech Sophia had befriended, the video was already live on YouTube. Harvard suspended Whitaker pending investigation. Nature retracted the paper with a scathing editor's note. The NIH froze his grants. Former students came forward in waves, 8 in total, spanning 15 years. The university settled quietly with several for undisclosed sums. Whitaker's name was stripped from the genomic center he'd founded. It was renamed after a Latina biologist who'd died young of the very cancer Sophia's work targeted. Sophia finished her PhD under a new advisor, published her pediatric trial results as first author in Science, and launched her own lab at UC San Francisco with a $10 million startup package from a consortium of foundations eager to signal change. Her gene editing protocol entered phase 1 trials within 3 years. She became the youngest tenured professor in UCSF history at 31, keynoting the same conference that had once crowned Whitaker. One spring afternoon in 2032, Sophia returned to Cambridge for a symposium. She walked past the biology building where it all began. The Whitaker Lecture Hall had been renamed the Reyes Seminar Room. A plaque on the wall quoted her, "Science advances on the shoulders of giants, but only when those giants lift others up instead of standing on them." She paused, touched the engraved letters, and smiled, not with bitterness, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had not only survived betrayal but alchemized it into legacy. Somewhere in a quiet suburb outside Boston, Elias Whitaker lived in the obscurity he'd spent a career trying to outrun. His prizes gathered dust. His citations flatlined. Sophia's, meanwhile, were just beginning to climb.